All right, welcome to Refrigerator Diaries. Hashtag What's Your RD? And this week we are looking into a not recent success story in Detroit, right? Your Detroit Mobile. You surpassed the success of Detroit, Metro Detroit, and beyond here, Mike Ransom. Thank you for coming in with this.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. We're going to do a golf clap. I hope you guys hear it, man. So, just recently I had the pleasure of reading an Eater article here with you.
Mm-hmm.
Before we dive in, we've got Ellen on the ones and twos and Chris Connections here co-hosting with us.
What up, though?
So, when did you get that Eater interview?
That was about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, well, that's fast.
Yeah.
It was a good turnaround, huh?
Yeah, they told me it might be a couple months, and they flipped it pretty quick. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've already done a discovery conversation with you. For those of you that want to take a listen, on our next posting, we'll post our Mike Ransom episode. Was back in season 2. Would love for you guys to take a listen. We're going to focus on is the great beyond. So last we talked, one of the things that you said that stuck was making food or efficiently transacting as many times as possible. I'll never forget, we were talking about how, and this was when you were in Corktown, you had we've talked many times before, but specifically in this time, you had the interior dining room, you just had set up the patio, and you were telling me about the amount of seats that you had and how many times you had to cycle through a turn time, and then what that average turn time was. A lot of people don't
like that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't talk about turn times. And for those of you listening, you want to give us an explanation?
Well, I mean, it all depends on the business and the space that you're working within. Depends on your check average. It depends on the type of food and experience you want to have. So every restaurant's going to be different. For us, in our original location, we only had originally 30 seats. So in order for us to pay our bills, we had to have people eating out of those seats throughout the day. We couldn't have empty seats because it was just enough space for us to pay our rent and all of our bills if we filled them all. After we opened the patio, that added another 35 seats, and that allowed us to have enough revenue if we filled them all to pay our bills, to pay all the payroll, to pay for all of our loans, and then if we were able to keep them filled as much as possible, then that would allow us to put money in the bank. And so it just depends on the space. And for us, we have a low check average of like $15 to $18 check average. So that being said, we need to keep those seats filled for the duration of us being there in order to maximize our, the rent that we have to pay and all the labor. For restaurants that might have like a $60 check average, then they obviously can have longer ticket times and they can spend more time with the guest and, with different courses. They might have the traditional salad and soup, and then they might maybe have a couple appetizers and then entree and then dessert. But that's not how people dine at our restaurant. So,
I think you're feeding the modern age of dining too.
Yeah.
What's the most you spend when you go out these days, like when you're eating recreationally?
Usually $25, $30.
I'm gonna be your date one night.
I'd love that. Hit all the spots. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
Probably about like 50 if I'm with somebody.
Yeah.
So I guess about 25, 30 for myself.
Yeah. Man, I'm on the cheap end. Ellen, what are you spending when you're going out here?
Out here in the city, spend?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do I spend, or what is my? Well, I hate to say it, my boyfriend who makes a little bit more money than I do, because he could splurge. He could splurge on the roses. I gotta cap it off at like $30.
Okay, $30. That's
the
same as.
I mean, like, it's a meal. drink.
For two.
Yeah.
For two.
For two.
Oh, for
okay.
And
two.
drinks too. Drinks are where they
Okay,
get
so
you.
that's like so
Yeah.
And tip.
you're eating right, Eddie, my man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, you got to do the tip.
Yeah. Okay. So what'd you say to get those seats filled? Because it's pretty consistently filled now. What did you have to do?
Oh, I mean, in Corktown, that's where all that thought process started, and we had more demand than we could seat, and we had people waiting mostly on the weekends and during dinner. We had to wait, and we didn't have room to have them wait, so I was constantly trying to figure out how we could keep the dining process moving through everybody's evening so we could minimize the amount of time people were standing outside for seats or crowded into a little room waiting for seats. So there, I think through the buzz that we got from our food, we generated the need for more space. So we already had a good problem of having too many people for the space that we had, and that's when we decided that we needed to do something in Oakland County, because on the weekends I would talk to all of our guests, and I would say 30% of them were all coming from Oakland County. And they were all like, they would tell me, you got to open something in Oakland County because we come all the way down here to eat, but we can't come during the week because we have, work and school or family stuff. So we can only come on the weekend. And then so what happened is we had a bottleneck. Everybody's coming during the weekend, and it was just, there's just a line outside, and, in the wintertime, people were getting uncomfortable. So that's when, through my travels in Oakland County, doing all my shopping runs, that I saw the location that we're in now.
Shout out to the market.
Yeah, 168 Market, for
no,
sure.
yeah.
Everybody knows that spot.
Yeah.
So when I saw that vacancy and the opportunity there, it was my answer to taking some of the load off our Corktown location and allowing people in Oakland County to have something more convenient for them.
So when you opened that location, did you find that there was a new group of people that were getting exposed to what you were doing, or did you find that you were just seeing, people who were traveling to you now, not traveling as far?
No, I'd say 80% new people, maybe 80, maybe 90% new people, because most of the familiar faces that we saw were people from Detroit who were shopping out
Oh yeah.
in Madison Heights, who were
Okay.
like, oh, I had to go to Target, so I just wanted to stop through, and then
I went for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to see if it was the same in both locations.
hopefully they.
Oh yeah, no
Yeah.
man, it's slaps
The
every
research.
time. Every time.
All right, yeah, right.
Man,
Report back. Yeah.
Every time. It's good stuff.
Let me know if it's not. So. No, they do great work out there, and what I realized is that people are just city and neighborhood pockets. People want to have something close by. So what we gained from Madison Heights was reaching people that normally just wouldn't drive downtown to go get food, and our check average is $15. That might be a 15-minute drive, gas, parking. I think the way a lot of people think is, I'm not going to drive down. I'm not going to commute to spend money on a $15 bowl of noodles.
Do you find that different when you when you switched to the new location, or when you had the new location? Did the check average switch, or?
No, actually, our check average in Madison Heights is always about $3 lower than Corktown.
Okay.
People don't drink as much out there. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. We have the same beer, wine, and cocktail program that we do down here, pretty much, and I'd say it's 30 to 40% less alcoholic beverages drank. We sell a lot more soft drinks and non-alcoholic beverages.
Okay.
For any one reason, I'm not sure, but I think it's just we have a more youthful and maybe single, no kids kind of clientele here.
Okay.
Students
Detroit's
or
a playground,
young professionals.
Yeah. That
Okay.
young crowd.
Mm-hmm.
No, serious. So, interesting story. Young Village, we started off doing pop-ups, and then from there we were doing the food truck, and we were fortunate enough to have the privilege to do Deli in the Alley. And first year for Deli in the Alley. First time doing it, we rented out a grill. I had we rented a truck. We had so much staff on hand, and I'll never forget. This is an important lesson to me from the second time over. The first year we did about 900 or so tickets, and we made somewhere around 10, maybe 12 grand. And I remember the second year, after improving upon our systems and getting a lot of proper SOPs in place, and also we had a lower average transaction price. It was somewhere around $10 year one, whereas year two we sold somewhere around 600 covers, and with an average transaction of somewhere around 15 or 16 bucks, we were able to make a whole 5 or 6 grand more with less people, without renting out this thing. So those systems matter, and you're already a number 3 with your locations. I know you probably have had many folks in your ears about additional locations. What goes into that?
Well, people call it organically thinking or organic growth, and that's definitely how I allow these things to happen. When I opened number 1, I had no idea that we were going to even have number 2 anytime soon. I would have been surprised if you told me I would have had something in the next 2 or 3 years. But the way that evolved is we had such a demand, and we were able to have such a great constant flow of business that allowed us to get all our systems together and to have our staff really get locked in. And because our business was consistent, we were able to have management come in and help kind of run the whole operation, which gave me the opportunity to be able to step away from the business and look at the big picture, and look at the point at which our staff or our customer base are demanding more, or where we could satisfy customers' demands. And that's when I was able to look at the fact that we're already putting too much pressure on that location. We can't grow that business anymore, and that's something that happened, and we realized it as we were going, and I was able to talk through it with my managers and realize that we were ready to kind of look at something. So then we opened Madison Heights. That property took some of the load off. It allowed us to have a little bit more management support, because we were able to have managers be part of 2 operations if we needed them to. And that extra revenue gave us more freedom, because we were able to get a little better pricing from our vendors, and we were able to just grow the systems even more. Anytime you have to start another operation, you get better at your systems, because you have to reevaluate how things were the first time and how you can improve upon them, and what you do differently. And then, honestly, after we finished the Madison Heights location, I was pretty much going to take a couple years off and just kind of focus on where we were going to go in the future. And then the Wayne State Midtown location was offered to me, and that was before, that was, spring or fall of last year. And at first I was like, I'm not ready for it. And then I started thinking about it, and I started thinking about how Wayne State is just really blowing me away as to how its enrollment has increased and how it feels actually like a campus now.
It does feel like a campus. Wayne State alumni say what's up.
Yeah, right. And I just think that's such an important part of the growth of the city, that the more I looked at it and the more I saw that space, and the fact that it was already pretty much a restaurant that was, that had been roughly built, and the fact that it was in a good location and that it was close to our other location of Corktown, meaning it would give us a little support. And then I met with our director of operations, Rob Stone, and he and I got together, and I said, hey, this is too good to turn up, should we, or to pass up, what do you think? And we talked through it, and sure enough, he was like, I think we should do it. He's like, I'm ready for it. And we had our chef, Brian Lukacs, who's our chef in Madison Heights. He was ready and up for a new project. And, when I had both of them on board, it just made sense that we would push ourselves to do that next project. and like I said, it was a little sooner than we were ready for at first, but we kind of made it happen. The funding was tough. We got turned down from a bunch of banks, and they wanted me to put my house as collateral, and I wasn't up for that. So
Okay.
we really scraped cash together to make it happen. It put us pretty close to the comfort zone where I wouldn't have been able to put any more resources into the project, but we were able to squeak by right in time for the holidays and to get open. So, and that organic growth is kind of, that property too, that wasn't something that we planned on, and I never thought I was going to be in Midtown, but the opportunity was there, and it was like, it made sense. Sue Mosey called me about it, and she pretty much was like, what do you think? And if everybody knows Sue Mosey, she runs Midtown pretty much.
Shout out Sue.
Yeah. And she offered her help, and asked if there was anything I needed, and said that to reach out to her for anything that would streamline us making the project come together. So it was really a culmination of a lot of factors that were in our favor that made it work out.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, but we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to ask you about a few other things when we return on Refrigerated Diaries. All right. That works if you want to jump right in for that right when we come back.
Okay.
And then after you do that, let's go into the social questions, most excellent food experience, most awkward food experience.
What you like to cook at home?
Yeah, what you like to cook at home. If you do any, you single, you dating?
Did you
Yeah.
cook anything special for Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day, we went out to. Dang, where did we go to eat? We went to, Alamir out in.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Hey, that's some good eating right there.
Yeah.
Agomir.
Yeah.
What did they get? Did they get a James Beard, or what did they get?
Oh, it wasn't that one. It was hold on real quick here. We're not recording, right?
So no, but
Okay.
this is the cameras are live though.
Okay.
Don't do anything incriminating.
How you spell it?
Big fan of the restaurant.
Well, thank
How
you.
spell
I
it?
live right by the Madison Heights one.
Oh, do you? Okay, so that's
Mir.
that's in your hood, huh?
Yeah, no, I was so excited when it opened.
Let's
It's like,
see.
Well, that's one thing we always wanted. We wanted it to be.
I think it's
This is the one, Alumara.
oh.
Alumara. It's like out in Farmington.
Okay.
Umara.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was
See, I was just swerving
different
completely
places,
different restaurants.
yeah.
It
Different,
is good.
But I've been to Alamir in Dearborn too.
I've never been to that one.
It's Al Omara.
Yeah, Oumara.
So, can you tell me? So, how much?
You been to
How liquid are you? Is it like? Because I was talking to Eli from Voyager and Lovers Only,
Mm-hmm.
and so in his case, right, he took out somewhere around like $250K in an investment, of which he gave up 20% equity, and he has to pay back $150K of that to the investor, and then he still has the loans and all those things in the projects. And as I'm sitting down going through all the next steps for expansion and things like that, like where do you get to the point where you don't have all of these loans? Because like as I talk to like Mamba and everyone else, they're like, oh yeah, I got 350 or like 450 or like 250. Like these seem like large amounts of money, and to just be having.
Yeah, I've never borrowed more than 20 grand.
Seriously?
Yeah.
What?
sound like that's the right way to go.
I borrowed 60 grand for Corktown. I borrowed 20 from or 30 from my pops and like 10 from my aunt,
Okay,
and
so
like
you did the family way.
a couple of different people. Yeah, and that's
Okay.
it. Like a couple of my family members were retired, and they were like, "Well, I got money in an IRA. It's paying me 4.8%." And I was like, "Well, what if I were to borrow 15 grand from you, and I would give you a little more than your IRA's returning in the next 5 years anyway?"
Right.
So it allowed me to do that without having anybody have shares of my business,
Right. That's a good
because
idea.
I don't. One thing that I really don't want to do is have partners in the business, because that's anytime you have to make a decision, you have to make it through everybody else, and it just can be really, it can have your hands tied. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but I was lucky to be able to have a very low cost startup in Corktown. We opened for under $100 grand.
Yeah.
Which I financed some equipment. A lot of the work we did ourselves. My pops was retired, but he's like a carpenter, and he's like a kind of fix it guy.
Okay,
So he was able to come in for like 3 months and like help me do the build out and fix stuff, and
Sound like family was key with you.
yeah. It was. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without him.
And none of them tried to take nothing. Like,
I
it
mean,
wasn't like, oh well, I would let you get it, but you had to give me something out of that. Like,
they were happy with the loan,
man, that's crazy.
I mean, because the loan with interest.
It works. Yeah, if it works.
Well, if it's interest, because I mean, when you're retired, if you're looking at your money doing something for you, if you already have it budgeted, that with the return of investment.
Ready to roll back on?
Yep. We're gonna go right into it.
We are coming back on in 5, 4, 3, 2.
All right, welcome back. And man, we're getting into the details here. We got Mike Ransom from Ema, one of my favorite places to eat of all time. If you have not had these yaki udon noodles, I'm telling you, you're missing out. And if you go to the Wayne State location, they have 2 alternative versions of it. It blew my mind. There was like, what?
Got y'all confused. Like, oh no.
I said, I might have to order all 3 of these.
I'm gonna have to do both.
You know?
It made me thinking about the restaurant.
Yeah.
Let's try both.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was wondering, so when you did your expansion, did you kind of like work at like a commissary where they're at your original location, you kind of shipped the food out and supplied your other locations, or did you kind of just do a whole new kind of startup there and did all the cooking there and didn't do any of that type of?
It's funny that you ask that, because every time we've had a new location, we thought, yeah, it's a bigger space. We can now do something. We can now use it as a commissary for the Corktown location, because they don't have space. And we went to Madison Heights, and we very quickly ran out of space. And we're like, I guess we're not going to be able to support in Corktown anymore. Came to Midtown. Same thing. Ran out of space. Like, I guess we're going to not have a commissary here either. So it's just weird. Like, you always grow into the space that you have, and you always need more space. But we wanted to, but we just ended up having each one prep its own product. We were able to use all the recipes, obviously, which made it a lot more streamlined, because it took us first year and a half, 2 years to refine all of our recipes in Corktown. And when we went to Madison Heights, that allowed it to be way more streamlined. We could just plug and play kind of.
So how'd you feel like you saw the consistency issue where you people just maintain the same standard as your first location onto your next location?
You borged them up.
Well, yeah, our recipes are standardized. We weigh everything by the gram. We don't do cup measurings. We do grams and ounces. We weigh everything pretty much, so it's very precise. But we also, when we opened Madison Heights, we brought a prep person from Corktown to have them train everybody there. And same with Midtown, we had people come from there, who had already worked with all the product and worked with the recipes. But really, a lot of it is just tasting, and every time you go in, you're tasting things that people are making and getting everybody in the habit of always tasting what they're making, because you could have a recipe all day long, but certain ingredients can change,
Right.
and you may never know it. It could change. Even manufacturing changes of product. The same product you could buy for years, and then they could not have availability of something that's a key component. They could change it. They're not going to tell you.
Yep.
So if you're not tasting, then you'll never catch these things.
Don't just wait for the label change.
Yeah, yeah,
Look at the
exactly.
ingredients.
Yeah, so it's having your staff, and these good habits is definitely the key.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you just had them all get a chip upload,
Yeah.
Download
it's a
that
little
next.
out of my pay grade. Yeah.
Get that next one. So this is Refrigerator Diaries, hashtag behind the food. What's in your RD? What do we're going to have a picture of your refrigerator. Stay tuned to the newsletter. What would we find in your fridge?
Wow. Right now, you're going to find a lot of vegetables because I've been feeling like I'm not eating enough vegetables. So
Yeah.
I went to 168 and I bought Guylon greens. I bought mustard greens. I bought pea shoots. I bought a bunch of just green vegetables. And
So we're about to.
I don't even know. I didn't buy them with anything in mind. I'll just steam them and just have a big bowl of steamed vegetables, and
That's good.
and then whatever else with it. Maybe a piece of fish with it. And
Right.
maybe cook a potato with it.
So do you eat ramen style all the time, or do you like eating a burger at home?
I don't cook burgers at home. I'll go to Nemo's. Nemo's
So
over there,
where
the
they
little
do it?
Irish pub on Michigan Avenue. I'll get a burger from them. It's nice griddled burger, But at home, I don't really. I'll cook Asian food, but it's mostly not noodles. It's mostly do some stews or something, or like some rice dish or something. But for the most part, I eat really kind of simple at home, I guess. I don't compose dishes at home. It's I eat what I feel like my body needs, I feel like I need some vegetables. I'll just, cook some veggies, and then I've been eating a lot of sweet potatoes lately. I'll just sometimes just roast off 5 or 6 sweet potatoes and just have them in the fridge. And then whenever I'm ready to eat, just slice one up, pan fry it to, crisp them up a little bit, and have that with a piece of fish, or, kind of, I don't know, not really exciting.
That move there was that's pretty advanced. Not a lot of people pre-cook their food at home.
Well, I realize if I want to eat at home, eat well at home, I have to have stuff easy to get to.
It's kind of have to be like the restaurant.
Yeah.
You don't get home till late.
Yeah.
It's 30 minutes or less.
Yep. And if I have to wait for it, if I have to make it a whole process, then I'm gonna end up eating pizza or something. Which not a bad thing. Not a bad thing, but I eat out, throughout the week, and I like to control my diet at home a little bit,
Facts.
Yeah.
Definitely. So tell us about it. No holds barred, no name dropping. Most excellent food experience, most awkward food experience.
Oh man, most awkward. I'm gonna travel back to the first time I traveled out of the U.S. And I went to visit a friend who was going to school in Paris at Cordon Bleu. She was going to culinary school there, and I was like, I'll go to culinary school there. And I scraped together the money. I was 21 years old. I had never flown, never been out overseas. And she had a free place for me to stay, so she talked me into coming to visit. And lo and behold, I didn't know that culinary school in France cost way more than I would ever be able to afford. So that was out of the question after I saw that part of it. But I ended up running out of money while I was there, too. I didn't realize how expensive it was to travel overseas.
Yeah.
Ran out of money. That's just only part of the story. Spent the rest of my money on records, which I shouldn't have done, obviously.
Classics, though.
we had one meal that she wanted to take me out to with some of her classmates, and it was at this French restaurant. It was a fancy restaurant. I didn't have anything to wear for it, so I had to go out and buy some pants to wear to this and a shirt. Spent more money that I didn't have.
Right.
And went to this restaurant. We're looking at our menus, and my menu is made out of this like thick plastic stuff. This like I didn't know it was plastic, but I leaned it over the candle on accident and lit it on fire.
That's great.
And all of a sudden, my menu's burning out, like burning in my hands. And I go to put it out with my hands, but I didn't know it was plastic. So like this hot plastic's like sticking to my fingers,
man,
and I'm like trying to be cool, you know. I'm like, ah! And so here I am, like menu's burnt. I got like blisters on my fingertips, and I'm just like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it was kind of hard to like really focus my chi for the rest of the meal, but that was definitely my most awkward dining experience.
But was the meal good though? Was it a good meal?
The
whole trip up.
The meal was good, but all I can remember is the prelude to the meal. You know, like I honestly probably don't even remember what I ate. You know, because it was not a good intro into the meal. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be funny though, but if it wasn't for the blisters, it's like. I would have been good. Like if it just caught on fire, we just had a great dinner with a laugh.
Oh yeah, you can't write better than that. You know.
Yeah. That's like fight or flight. Like you're trying to like survive. And you're like, oh.
And I didn't really know French either, so that was
like what? Jeez,
like, merde. Yeah.
That sounds great. What about most excellent food experience?
Most excellent, man. You know. I had a friend, actually my director of operations, had a bachelor party up in Northern California. And we are big oyster fans, and we'd always talked about just having oysters like right out of the water and just shucking them. So he had like about 12 of us met in San Francisco, went up the coast like an hour, and we went to this oyster farm, got like couple hundred oysters and a bunch of wine, and we sat on the coast where these oysters come from, and we just sat on some logs on the beach and had a fire and just cooked some food over the fire and opened oysters and drank wine right on the bay.
That's fantastic.
You know what I mean? And it's like it doesn't get any better than that, because just the simplicity of it was just like, you know, and like the company makes it of course as well, but that's something that I always like to remind myself that it doesn't have to be complicated. Right, you know, like good experiences don't have to be like expensive. They don't have to be complicated. They don't have to be. They don't have to include, you know, all the confines of a fine dining experience that people think about. You know.
Yeah.
So
no, definitely. That's fantastic. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. So, you know, we've only got a little bit more time left, so we'll kind of jump right into some of the goings-ons here. So, at Yum Village, we have been going through a battle of back and forth between disposable flatware and non-disposable flatware. You know, whereas the disposable flatware, it's good for the environment. The non-disposable flatware, awful for the environment, but aesthetically pleasing. People are just so used to it. And I recommend you all support National Geographic, support like these real news institutions. The most recent article in National Geographic specifically details out the journey of plastic and how something that's only been around for a little under 60 years is pretty much one of the main contributors to the detriment of the planet. The disposable fork only in the 1940s after the Second World War, and the disposable bottle shortly after that, which saw its rise with the addition of things like drink holders, beverage holders, cup holders, and whatnot. Toronto has just recently launched a deposit program for reusable flatware as a pilot citywide. So patrons, citizens of the city of Toronto would pay $5 deposit to then acquire their disposable flatware set, which is a fork, knife, spoon, and a Tupperware container that all of the participating restaurants in this program would then use and agree to use. Think I want to do something like that here, but I just was curious on your take of this.
I mean, yeah, that's for us. It's even more difficult than probably for you because we have broth.
Yeah.
So we've tried, like, they make like compostable ramen bowls and stuff, but they just don't hold up, you know. So we use plastic to-go containers for our broth and for our noodles. But what I like to stress with those is I use them at home. Like, they're Tupperware at home.
Yeah, they're reusable, yeah.
Yeah, because we do our 16-ounce pint container for our broth. It's got a lid on it, you know. I use those at home to store food in my fridge, you know, and I'll use them for years.
Yeah.
Same with our bowls for our noodles. They come with a really nice plastic tight-fitting lid. You know, that's my Tupperware at home. So if you're smart about things that way, as a consumer, then you can, if you don't like to see the waste, then you can definitely maximize those things yourself, you know, without having to have like a recycling or like a return policy. But I think the silverware thing is cool. I think that's a good concept. You know, I think the biggest thing is will it work? Is it going to be more hassle than it's worth? You know, I mean, I think if enough people get on board, then it could be really cool. But I think, you know, one of the problems they talk about with recycling is it takes more energy to recycle the products than it does to manufacture them. So the carbon footprint of recycling is higher than the benefit.
I was just going to say that, too.
So
that's one of the biggest dilemmas.
That's a big dilemma, you know. And, like, the thing in Toronto, they might realize, too, that what's the cost of them having to sanitize, collect, and reorganize and repackage and, you know, keep cycling these containers to all the restaurants after they clean them, you know, because somebody's going to have to redistribute them to other restaurants, you know, and, you know, and at the cost of $5 a person, it's not a lot of cash coming in from that. So how are you going to pay for people to do that? You know, who's going to be the person that does that? Because there's really not much going into that, you know.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but, you know, those are the things that could limit it, you know. Yeah.
Definitely. That's what you would call, and that process you just did there is the process of the economics of a unit. And a lot of times as business owners, especially small business owners, we don't take the time to break down the revenue split or expense split, net split of the dollar bill that we make. You know, so like if you make $1, how much of that dollar is going to gas? How much of it is going to rent, food, payroll, etc. throughout? And even with us being a restaurant, you know, and the sign of the times, it's very hard to just be a restaurant. You know, like restaurants are selling T-shirts or meal plans, or, you know, we're selling spices and soap. You know, just to keep our average transaction price up. You can't really be a restaurant anymore. But you are right. It's important to utilize economics of a unit and really take into account what that true cost is as an operator.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it for us is the products that are available. Are they viable? You know, if it doesn't work, then it's not viable. You know, if our customer is going to pick up a bowl of soup and the container is going to fold up on them and they're going to burn themselves, then that's obviously not going to be a viable product for us. You know, so yeah.
I did have a quick question, though. I wanted to know. So do you use like a lot of verticals like Grubhub, DoorDash, and they have a lot of other things out there that people go to, and they like go to different office buildings and set up there. Do you do a lot of stuff with that?
No, you know what? We don't do any of them. We DoorDash and them. They'll come to us to pick up food, but we don't pay them. We're not the sponsor. We're not part of their program. So they don't. because I refuse to have them take 25% of my check average. You know, if you don't call them,
because that $15 they'll cut right into that.
yeah. If you don't pay them, like they'll tell you that you got to get on board and you'll be on their platform. But if you don't, if people want your food, they'll come. They'll call Grubhub, or I mean they'll call Postmates or DoorDash.
Yeah.
They'll say, hey, we want this, and they'll come pick up our food. We'll get all the check average. We don't pay them anything for that. The guest is paying them for it.
Wait a
So-
second.
Yeah, they. So,
All right.
so DoorDash, they want you to be a partner with them.
Right.
That means you get a page on their platform, right?
Yeah.
We didn't do that. We told them no because people are already coming with DoorDash. DoorDash, the way it works is if you're a customer for DoorDash, you can call them and tell them you want food. You could tell them you want a big bite hot dog from 7-Eleven.
Right.
They'll go pick it up and take it to the guest. The guest pays for it.
Okay.
They're not charging 7-Eleven because 7-Eleven's not a partner of theirs.
Right. So how does that work then? So the person comes with a DoorDash bag and then they have like a prepaid card or something that they use to.
Yeah, they use it. They use a card. They'll show us their order on the phone, and then they'll swipe their card and they go. And then, yeah. So we don't use Grubhub for the same reason because I can't give them 25% or even 30.
Hey, man,
sometimes
this
30%.
is news to use, man. This is news to
Yeah.
use. I mean, California just put down that potential bill for allowing information. A little known fact is when we get an order, because we are on Uber and Grubhub and things like that, when we get an order from Uber Eats, for example, and let's say we run out of plantain, it's not possible for us as the restaurant to communicate with the customer that we ran out of plantain because Uber Eats doesn't give us the ability to contact the customer. And then the customer rates us poorly because we gave them chickpeas instead of plantain. So I'm going to adopt that principle. I think that we should start sticking up to these.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if people want it, they'll tell them they want it, and it's their job to provide that service. You know.
Absolutely.
Can't let them bully you.
Yeah.
Can't.
They
Exactly.
try. That's what they want to do.
Yep.
Yep.
Wow, thinking about it.
All right. So, brother, it's been a pleasure having you on with us here.
Thank you, Gavin.
You know, I love eating at your restaurant. I can't wait to see the autobiography and the cookbook when it comes out, you know, along with the cooking video series, Fun Times with Mike Ransom.
And we have to go get that dinner that we talked about too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Let's definitely do that. Chris Connections,
So,
Thanks, Chris.
Ellen.
good meeting, man.
I'll see you on the next one.
All right, peace.
Bye-bye.